Giannis has been a superstar in the NBA for, let's say, 5 years. Right? 5 years he's become a superstar. He's been an all-star for 5 years. He really hit the next level in his development 4 years ago. But he's been a superstar for, let's say, for 5 years. Think about the care that the Bucks have shown in trying to build around him. Because he's the one superstar we got. We got lucky in the draft. He's here. He likes it here. We're going to keep him. We're excited. And now here is probably the third or fourth version of a team you are trying to build around Giannis. And what's happened since Giannis has turned the Bucks into a really good regular season team? They've flamed out in the playoffs. They've had two really spectacular flameouts. So in the last 2 years, they have reconfigured, redone their roster. They shipped out a bunch of guys at the end of last year. They brought in a new bunch of guys this year, and here's where the Bucks are. Second round of the playoffs, getting absolutely boat raced by the Nets. All the care and planning and figuring out and hemming and hawing and just standing there going, do we bring in Drew Holiday? Is he the guy? Is it somebody else? What do we need to do? And this is where they are. They're about to get smacked out of the playoffs by the Nets. And here are the Nets, who 18 months ago had no players. They had nobody. They were nowhere on the NBA map. We're trying to be relevant. And then KD and Kyrie decide to come to the Nets for no other reason other than, hey, it's open. It's kind of New York. We'll go there. And then at the beginning of this season, James Harden says, hey, I want out. I want to go play with them. The Nets had nobody. They had nobody 18 months ago. In the last few months, they bring in three superstars. They bring in Blake Griffin. It's all working. And now here they are, ready to just usher them out of the playoffs. That is so depressing. That the Nets had none of these guys 18 months ago, and here they are about to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals and maybe the NBA Finals and maybe the NBA title. And here are the Bucks, who have taken so much care and so much time in planning the last 5 years around Giannis, and they're no closer to a title than they were when they had him. That's really depressing. But it's kind of funny depressing. It's not depressing like, oh, man, that's a really bad story. It's kind of like, wow, that's funny depressing. It's kind of funny. It's funny sports basketball depressing.
No, sure. Hey, how quickly can this turn? Now, remember, two of those guys were with the team, just didn't play last year. And then, all right, we're here. We're part of it. Because remember, going into the bubble, you just who's going to show up? Do we have enough guys? Was a nightly occurrence before they were unceremoniously bounced. But you go in, and then James Harden does his "I'm out" statement with the Rockets, and boom, all of a sudden you've got your three-headed monster. Even though they didn't play a ton together, it didn't matter, right? You still, any combination of those two can still take over. And if the Bucks, even with all of these retoolings, are still going to try to live and die, and mostly die, by shooting from the perimeter, 8 of 27 tonight, 29%. They shot 44% for the game overall. And that's with a very they didn't even cut into the lead in the fourth. Let's just call it what it is. They lost each quarter, even when the second team for the Nets were playing. But you made all these moves, and Giannis is still a guy trying to shoot from 3-point range. He still can't shoot a free throw. Forget about the 10-second count. That's a whole other part of it. But the mid-range game is still so spotty that, you just back into the lane and say, okay, go ahead, take it. And if you're not going to get support, and Middleton's the guy that seems to be wearing it most, right, the expectations on him, that, for Budenholzer, what's the next version? And anybody saying we just got a great series after a 2-0 start from the Clippers beating the Mavericks, you really think this Bucks team somehow beating this Nets team 4 out of the next 5 games?
Unless I didn't pick him.
No, you disavowed them from day one. You said this is a fraudulent 46-win team.